All right, Larry Krueger with you after Super Bowl 57, looking at three players that appeared in Super Bowl 57 that I think the 49ers really ought to pursue in free agency. All right, we're going to start with one. We got a small one, we got a medium sized one, and we got an expensive one. So, one that's not going to cost you hardly any money, one that's going to cost you kind of a mid range price tag, and one free agent that the 49ers may have to stretch a little bit to sign. But all three of these guys, I think, are key free agents the Niners ought to take a look at this spring. All right, number one, 49ers need help on the offensive line. Nick Allegretti, Kansas City Chiefs. This guy is an interesting prospect. His father and his two uncles played football at Butler University. So football is the family business. This guy was a 4-year wrestler in high school, 2-year team captain at the University of Illinois. He played in 48 consecutive games for the Illini, and he's got position flexibility. He's got experience at guard, both guard spots, and center, and he's a very flexible player. He's a wide body interior offensive lineman who's got starting experience at guard and center and can even play right tackle in a pinch. Now, what do I really love about Nick? I love the wrestling background. When you have that background, you understand how to play with leverage. He's a tough guy. He's a smart guy. He had a 42 Wonderlic score coming into the NFL out of the draft. And he's got that intelligence that teams covet from backup offensive linemen. Here's one of the most underrated traits of backup offensive linemen. You have to be smart. Why? Because you got to learn all the plays from right guard, left guard, center, maybe even right tackle. This guy is, and Kyle Shanahan's system is that much more complex than most. So they need intelligence on their offensive line. And Nick Allegretti is smart and tough, and he can learn their system. So this is a guy who will play through the whistle. Chiefs selected him in the 7th round of the 2019 draft, 216th overall. He's still only 26. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's been coached at a really high level. Andy Reid has a lot of intricacies in his play calling and his formations and how he designs his offense. So this guy will not be overwhelmed by just the sheer size of the Shanahan playbook. So I really like Nick Allegretti. It's not going to cost you a lot. He's not a starter for Kansas City. He's really a special teamer and a backup offensive lineman, but I think he's got potential to start for the 49ers at right guard. I think he's got potential to start for the 49ers at center, and I think he could be an invaluable depth piece along that offensive line. And at 26, he's the right age for free agents that I want to pursue. I think you get burned in free agency when you go after guys in their 30s because a lot of times they've played their best football. Allegretti is smart and tough and physical. He's 26, he's healthy, and he hasn't played a ton of NFL football. So I think you're getting a relatively fresh player. So really like Nick Allegretti. He is the kind of the cheaper version of the free agent on this free agent list. All right, the mid-cost player is Colin Saunders. We'll stay with the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs have a defensive tackle who played at Western Illinois, and he's an interesting player. He's 6 feet, 325 pounds. This is a really athletic guy. He played high school football. He played running back and defensive line for Parkway Central High School in Illinois, and became the first Western Illinois player ever invited to the Senior Bowl. And then he got a sack in the Senior Bowl against Will Grier. He also, picked up a lot of exposure coming out in the draft because he's incredibly athletic. And Adam Schefter tweeted out a picture or a video, I should say, of Colin Saunders doing a backflip. So he's 6 feet, 325 pounds, but he's athletic enough to do a backflip. Chiefs took him in the 3rd round, 84th overall in the 2019 draft. He's a mature guy. He's married, has a daughter. He's a really athletic kid from St. Louis, and it's a very impressive combo of traits that Saunders has. He's very agile. He's got great athletic ability. He can split double teams when he's allowed to work the A gap. He can get engulfed by size and power, but he's a fiery, athletic defensive tackle with great feet, great hands. a nonstop motor. There was a play in the Super Bowl where Saunders had to get to the sideline and got out there and made a play. Now, that's the kind of play that Javon Kinlaw struggles to make. Saunders is versatile. He's got experience lining up over the center or in a shade position. He can use his quickness and his low center of gravity to hold his ground. He was a 3-year starter at Western Illinois in their 3-4, lined up mostly as the nose tackle, but also moved to various positions between the 0 and the 5 technique spots. So he's scheme versatile. I think for the 49ers, you would play him opposite Eric Armstead in a 4-3, one gap, shoot up the field. He's got quickness to bother you as a pass rusher. But I think he's got a little bit more strength and anchor ability than he did show at Western Illinois coming out in the draft. So Chiefs played him inside next to Chris Jones. I would play him inside next to Eric Armstead. It's going to cost you a little bit because, as I said, that it's a tough position to fill. And this is an athletic player with a lot of upside potential, but I really like him. He's not a two gap, he's not a two gap guy. In an ideal world, he would be a little bit more stout against the run. But I really like in the Niners wide 9, where you've got a lot of athleticism, a lot of movement ability. You're looking for pass rush really out of all 4 of your down defensive linemen. I think Colin Saunders from Kansas City is going to be a phenomenal, underrated free agent. And I think he's got an ability to, play in a rotation for the 49ers and really give them another solid interior player to plug that run and give them a little bit more pass rush than what Javon Kinlaw offers. All right, that's number 2. Number 3 on my list is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. This guy played at Florida, 4.48 speed. He was a really good player at Florida. He's the MVP of the Outback Bowl. Just a big, athletic defensive back. He can play the slot. He can blitz off the slot. He can support the run. He can play, man-to-man defense on big receivers. He can match up with tight ends. If you want to use him as a cover 1, high safety, he's got the range and the ball tracking ability to take the ball away over the top. He's got the frame that you look for. He's got a long frame. He's well built, smooth, athletic, confident player, great agility, impressive versatility. I mean, this guy can play everywhere. He's kind of like a a Jimmy Ward type player. He can play the slot. He can play a high safety. He can play down in the box. He's got burst. He doesn't hesitate as a hitter, as a striker. He will absolutely blow you up. He's got size. He's got power. He will knock the receivers around and separate receivers from the football. He's quick to trigger and support the run. You saw him come up in the Super Bowl against Isaiah Pacheco and just put the smack down on Pacheco. What I love about CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's fast and he will hit you. This guy's a cornerback, but he's also a free safety. He gets cornerback love because he's got the man-to-man ability to mirror receivers up and down the field, but he's a free safety. He's 5'11", about 210 pounds, and he's got experience at both spots, corner and safety, and he's just the perfect modern-day NFL matchup defender. He is a hitter. I'm talking about a big-time hitter. This guy's not afraid of contact. This guy's going to come downhill with a full head of steam. He can play in the slot. He can work as an extra linebacker on the field. Really impressive football player. I love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's got experience playing single high safety. I think the Niners under Steve Wilks will play a lot of single high. He showed instincts and range and deep coverage. He's got the speed to play center field if you need him to do that. Often played the nickel for the Saints. This is a difference-making defender. And that's where the 49ers are right now. They need to re-sign Jimmy Ward because he also is a versatile, tough, difference-making defender. Some guys play the game for money. Some guys play the game for glory. Some guys play the game because they just love to play the game and run and hit. And that's Jimmy Ward, and that's also Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So it's going to cost you, but you know what? This is the player to take away from Philly. This is a tone setter. This is a guy that on Sundays you are going to be absolutely thrilled that you have him. Saints made a move to move him, not because they didn't like him, because they had huge cap problems, and Howie Roseman was smart to pounce on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. But now the Eagles have huge salary cap problems, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is likely to walk in free agency. Let's hope he walks to the 49ers and John Lynch in free agency, because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is the kind of difference maker that could put the 49ers and take their secondary over the top. Well, there you go. Nick Allegretti, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Colin Saunders. Those are the three guys that played in Super Bowl 57 that I think your 49ers ought to sign in free agency.